going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 196 of Cocktails in the War Room. Technical difficulties tonight. Want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. Is everything good? Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room. I'm your host, by the way, if you're new. I'm Mistress Carrie. We get together every Tuesday night at 8:30, and we've been doing it now. Well, we started getting together back on March 14th of 2020, and that's when the co-host got an ego. If you're new to the War Room, allow me to introduce you to the biggest pain in the ass. This is Wednesday. She's my co-host, and she wants cookies all the time. Everything's good. Jonathan says it's good. Keith says sounds perfect. Loud and clear, says Donna. So if you're new to the War Room, let me introduce you to Wednesday. This is my co-host. She's my partner in crime. And I've got her trained where she will come in and sit here with her toys in the War Room. She will also attack pillows at any given time. Hey, get away from there. That's all the buttons. Go on, get. But she'll only do it if I bribe her with cookies. Come here. And, no, back up. Show everybody the tricks. Paw. Thank you. Other paw. No, I want the other one. Thank you. Sit down. Very aggressive. Down. Okay. And then when the cookies are gone, she takes off for a while. And then sometimes she'll come back for mail call later on in the show. Sometimes she won't. Michelle says, I need a big, tall drink. Yeah, right here with you, Michelle. That's why I got this one. Absolutely necessary today. Jay says, man, I miss WAF. We miss you too, Jay, but we're still around. I work with Shu every day on the Pike in Worcester, and we all keep in touch with each other. Everybody's kind of around, but yeah, I miss it too, obviously. I didn't get to bring the dog to work. I only got to do that a couple of times. When she got fixed, I told the boss, I'm like, she can't be left alone. I need to take her to work. And he was like, okay, as long as it's not like an everyday thing. And I brought her to work, and she slept on my desk. And literally everyone was just, because she was tiny, and everybody would just come into my office and they were like, bring her every day. Hey, she peed in the AF studio once, which is why I couldn't bring her every day, because she was down. Thank you. Good girl. Let's see. Okay, unfroze, no sound. Wait, what's going on? Betty, are you good? Can you guys hear me okay? Is everything all right? Jay says, I remember seeing you at the Lasting Room in Haverhill back in the day. Some good times were had down in downtown Haverhill back in the day. Sad about Michael Spaulding, R.I.P., says Veronica. It's the 5-year anniversary of my grandma's passing today, says Alexis. So sad. Sad news. I had to put my dog down. I've had him for 12 years, says Carol. Everybody's got sad news today. I'm so sorry. Walter, do the sound check. Everything's okay? You guys are telling me that things are okay, and then they're not. Everything is good here, says Michelle. Good evening, says Steven. Good evening, fam. Let's see. Travis, what's going on? You're the expert. Everything's A-okay, says Tim. I hear you fine, Kevin says. Is Spaz still alive? Jay says, yes, of course Spaz is still alive. Good now, but maybe on my end, we'll see what happens, says Betty. Okay, nope, Donna says we're good. All good, loud and clear, says Ash. Facebook has an issue with the lips not matching the sound. Interesting. Jen says, I can hear you. So first of all, we've gone back and forth, and I've talked to people with a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass about this, about possibly moving the War Room every week to YouTube, because not everybody has Facebook, and to be able to move it to YouTube. I'm open to that possibility. It really doesn't change very much on my end. You know, every time we get together here in the War Room, it goes live on Facebook, and then the videos get put up on YouTube. So if that were the case, then it would just go live on YouTube, and then it would get put up later on Facebook. But Shannon says, hello, Carrie, Wednesday, and Zero in the War Room family. Zero's not joining us in the War Room tonight. She's not here every week. Sometimes she's here. Sometimes she's not. So is that Facebook or Pornhub, says Keith. Michelle says you just froze on my TV. Betty says I can hear you fine. Marcy says great. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But I do love it when you guys kind of send me messages and show me, like, for some reason, when we started doing the War Room, I always imagined that everyone was just watching on their phone. And what it took me a while to kind of get wrapped around my head is that everybody has smart TVs now. And so many of you guys watch the War Room on your giant TVs in your living room, which, first of all, makes me think, like, Wednesday must be huge. But then also that, like, you're looking at my giant head. See, when I raise my arm, she thinks that there's cookies. There's no more, Wednesday. Thank you for the high five. I was showing you that I didn't have any more cookies. There's nothing left. I don't have anything. Let's see. Don't you have a time limit on YouTube? I don't know. I can look into that. I didn't think there was. I know there's a time limit on Zoom if you're using the free one. I'm not sure. Michelle says I watch on my laptop. Jonathan says R.I.P. Olivia Newton-John. Yeah, can we first of all just talk about Olivia Newton-John for a second? Hold on. I'm going to change the screen since Wednesday has now decided she wants to sit over here where there's no camera. Thanks, Wednesday. Hearing the news about Olivia Newton-John yesterday, I was so sad. Obviously, as you get older, the natural order of things is that people that you looked up to when you were a kid are older than you, and therefore you're going to lose them before you most of the time. That's the natural order of things. We talk about it all the time with family, that grandparents, parents, the cool aunts and uncles, older siblings. But when it happens, it doesn't make it any less painful. And growing up, there were 3 women that I got exposed to at a pretty young age and wanted to be like. Did you guys see her back there? I wanted to be like Princess Leia because Star Wars was huge when I was a little kid. And I thought that for the most part, she was, powerful and whatever, even though, for some reason, female characters in movies always seem to be the damsel in distress, that when a guy storms in the room to save her, she stands back out of the way and kind of watches the fair fight when she could pick up the weapon or hit the guy that was attacking her and go 2-on-1 against the bad guy. But I digress. Princess Leia was somebody, also Stevie Nicks was somebody that I always wanted to be like. And when I went and saw Grease at the movies when I was a kid, I was little. I remember at the end of the movie telling my mom that I thought Olivia Newton-John was so beautiful, but only at the end. Olivia Newton-John in the spandex pants, the bustier, the high heels, the red lipstick, the cigarette, the tell me about it stud. I wanted to be her. I thought she was so cool. And so the idea that woman that is so ingrained in my brain could be 73 years old and pass away. It's just, Thomas says, buy pillows. Donna says, I watched all of her movies and idolized her. Yeah, I even watched Xanadu because it was Olivia Newton-John and everything that she did. I just loved her. I thought she had such a beautiful voice. The whole let's get physical exercise craze with aerobics in the 80s when she had like the short haircut and all that. It was just so sad. PJ says, Carrie, do you think you'll ever go back to live radio in Boston, even though there's no rock stations left anymore? Just a shame. Rock 101 in New Hampshire is basically the only station playing rock. We need WAF, BCN wasn't enough. I mean, look, being on the air at the Pike has been amazing. I did have some job interviews at some stations in Boston and a lot of other places before the pandemic, in that weird 2-week period between when WAF went off the air and before COVID. I did have job interviews, and then COVID hit and a lot of things changed. And I don't know what the future is going to be for me, for Boston radio. Sorry, I have a hair in my eyelash. I don't know what the future is going to bring. The industry is changing so quickly that trying to figure out where I'm going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, only time will tell. I mean, we've spent extensive time here in the war room talking about, when you have a job like I had and you're under contract for multiple years, to me, the idea of not being at WAF, like I couldn't fathom that. And I have had so much life upheaval over the last few years, both professionally and personally, that I was always the kind of person that just planned everything. Like I knew what my life was going to be 10 years from now. And the last few years has definitely taught me that you can plan all you want, but that doesn't mean it's all going to happen. And with the way that radio is changing, I don't know the answer to that question. But if you own radio stations and you would like to have a conversation with me, I'm always willing to have a conversation, especially if it's over delicious lunch or cocktails. So I don't know, but I can tell you that I am incredibly happy and grateful working for the Pike and Cumulus Broadcasting in Worcester, and also for Westwood One at all of the other shows that I do. And I'm kind of loving what I'm doing. So we'll see what happened. Let's see. Eric says, I love the Pike. Jonathan says, you're forgiven. I keep harassing Chuck and Mike and Carrie to play newer music. Brian, we're working on it. It's a couple years ago, they were playing like Billy Joel. Like we're easing, we're slowly, we're getting there. The thing is, the ratings are really good and we're really happy about that. And the advertisers seem to be happy with us. And so sometimes, you gotta dance with the date that brung you, but we're definitely infusing a lot more new music into the Pike, especially in the afternoons on my show. And so we'll see what happens down the line. But, classic rock is having such a huge moment right now. And I mean, you look at something like what's going on with Stranger Things and Metallica, Master of Puppets is like 40 years old. And people are just discovering it now, and it's amazing all over again. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Shannon says Rock 92.9 plays rock music, but it's not the same. Yeah, because they're not playing a lot of the newer, heavier stuff. They'll play a lot of, they're like a more modern classic rock station, so they don't play a lot of the super old classic rock, but they focus a lot on like the 90s, which is still hard for me to stomach that 90s music is classic rock. Because when I think classic rock, like I think the Allman Brothers, and it's Pearl Jam now. And that's weird. Michael says it's like turning an aircraft carrier. It doesn't turn on a dime. Yeah, they redid so much with the Pike, bringing Mike Shue in, bringing me in. And I think anybody that works in science, that you can't do a proper experiment and know what's working and what's not if you change everything all at once, because then you don't know what to attribute the failure or the success to. And so as we change little by little, we're able to kind of zig and zag based on what the audience wants. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the audience happy. And, we're working on it, but it takes time. Oh, let's see. CLX plays Green Day. That's classic rock now, says Mark. I know. That's what's crazy. So Green Day's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That eligibility requirement is 25 years from the date of your first release. That's classic rock. That's the classic rock threshold too. 25 years old or older for the most part. Sometimes stuff sneaks in there that's not quite 25 years, like Linkin Park and stuff like that. But for the most part, 25 years is the threshold. So if you think about it, in 2022, that's 97. What? Like, we're looking at a time where, like, the debut album from Seven Dust is classic rock. I feel weird just saying that. That, like, Rage Against the Machine is classic rock, but it's true. All right, let's see. What's everybody drinking? Well, Keith, you know what this means. So obviously, cheers to you guys. What's up, Jerry? Jerry says, hope things are going. They're going. I feel like sometimes I'm strapped into a roller coaster that I agreed to get on and really liked for the first couple times. And now I'm like, okay, I wouldn't mind getting off now. And it's like, yeah, no, we're just going to keep going for a while. That's how I feel right now. Coffee with cookie flavored creamer. Oh, delicious. I was 12 in 97, says Mark. Really? I was getting Opie and Anthony coffee in 1997. Insane. I often wonder when I go to the nursing home, the music will be Bon Jovi, Kiss, and all the music we listen to. Yeah. You're going to be at the old folks' home sitting in like the rec room and someone's going to be playing Killing in the Name on the piano. That's what's going to happen. I just came from Vallarta Supermarkets, a local supermarket having tacos and chips. Oh, is that Vallarta? Now that you're saying you're having tacos and chips, is that Vallarta Supermarkets? I would love to have tacos and chips right now. Thanks for making us feel old, says Monica. I'm not trying to make you feel old. I'm just telling you that Quincy's first Dunkin' Donuts grand opening, free coffee for the first 100 customers, 10 to 12 noon. Free coffee is always better than coffee you pay for. That's usually the rule. Keith is no pants in the rec room. Gonna get ready to retire I was getting ready to retire in 97, says Michael. Home sweet home in the nursing home. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the song I sang to audition for the High School Musical. And that'll be the song that people are singing in the nursing home. Which, by the way, did any of you guys go and see Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Poison and Joan Jett at Fenway? Did you have a good time over the weekend? Let me know how the show was. Eric says, with someone in the nursing home, they would like soft rock. Keith says, I was 20. I was in middle school in 97, says Jonathan. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting as things get older. And I remember interning at WAF, like in the early 90s. And I remember the older part of the listening audience making fun of bands in the moment, like Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, and saying like, they'll never be like Zeppelin. These bands are never going to last. And it's so funny to think that same thing was happening like in the late 90s too, that bands like Rage Against the Machine and Linkin Park and all those bands, people kind of wrote off. Korn, Slipknot, all of those bands. And it comes up all the time on the podcast episodes. These bands are all touring arenas still. The Scorpions are still touring in arenas. Iron Maiden is still touring in arenas. Korn playing amphitheaters outdoors with Evanescence. Megadeth touring with Five Finger Death Punch in front of a whole new audience. Like, not only did the bands last, but they've been able to maintain. I mean, look at the stadium tour. All of those bands from the 80s are all packing stadiums again. It's crazy. Keith says, Carrie's favorite artist. Carrie, you know who my favorite artist is. It's the Beatles, obviously. Steven says, I was stationed in South Korea in 97. Steven, did you see the news about all of the flooding that's happening in South Korea right now because of the rain? It's crazy. Eric says, Tool got written off. Oh, wait, it's on this arm. Yeah. People thought that Tool wasn't going to last. I mean, it's one of those things that obviously hindsight is always 2020. And when it comes to music, it's always easy to write something off, especially when it's new, because it's completely unfair to compare a new band to the legacy of Led Zeppelin, a new band to the legacy of Guns N' Roses or the legacy of Metallica, because there's proven track record and albums and success breeds accessibility and ease of creativity. That's when you can afford the good equipment. You can afford the good producers. And so to compare newer bands to these older established bands, I mean, hell, like if bands like Led Zeppelin were getting compared to the Beatles and saying, oh, well, just write them off because they're never going to be anything because Elvis was big or whatever, like it just doesn't make any sense to do that. So to write something off, especially when it's new, because it's completely unfair to compare. That's what I'm saying. And also, you're comparing that music through your own filter of life experience. But what happens is that these newer artists are listening to music and experiencing the world in a different way than anyone could have ever imagined that's older than they are. And therefore, they're going to interpret the world and music and influence and all of that differently than everyone else. And so you really can't compare the world that Led Zeppelin recorded music in with the world that bands are recording music in now. It's just, you just can't. Let's see. Live was also written off, but Throwing Copper's a great album. It's a fantastic album that sold millions of copies. The question is, what bands of today will be the ones that are going to stick around? Well, that's the thing. When people answered that question 30 years ago, they never said the bands that stuck around. They never said Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains or Soundgarden or any of those bands, because the bands have to kind of prove themselves. They've got to tour. They've got to release multiple albums. I think, it comes up on the podcast a lot that there are a lot of bands. People thought Papa Roach was a flash in the pan. People thought, bands like Anthrax got written off. I mean, it's when you think about all of the bands that have stood the test of time that are getting ready to celebrate like 20 Incubus, like celebrating 20-year anniversaries, 25-year anniversaries. I think it's kind of hard to figure out what the bands are going to be that are going to carry the torch for rock 25 years from now. But I think there's a lot of great bands making great music. I mean, I wouldn't bet against Lizzie Hale being gone in 10 years. I wouldn't bet against Evanescence not still being around. If you're talking about newer bands, I think bands like The Pretty Reckless. I mean, there's a lot of bands that are kind of on the alternative side, like Måneskin and some of these other bands that are finding success, not only at rock, but at pop as well. I don't know. Did you hear about Netflix, the limited series Trainwreck about Woodstock 99? I haven't watched it yet. I did watch the Peace, Love, and Chaos documentary already. And I mean, I was there. So hearing about the awful experiences that other people had makes me feel bad to say that I had such a great time. We talked about it before when the documentary came out. Number one, I was prepared for Woodstock 99, having survived Woodstock 94, which was completely on the opposite side of the spectrum. Woodstock 94 was cold and rainy and muddy. And so Woodstock 99 was just the complete opposite. Everything was paved. There was no shade and there was no rain and it was really hot. But when we were preparing to go to 99, a lot of the things and the experience that I had from 94, bringing all of our own food in, we brought an RV. We spent the money and had an RV slot at Woodstock 99. We rented an RV. We all chipped in. We bought like $1,000 worth of drinks and food. We filled the water tank. We had our own bathroom and we had a generator with extra gas and we had air conditioning. So because we thought ahead, and that's not because of the radio station, because as a matter of fact, we went to Woodstock 99 guerrilla style because at the time BCN was owned by the same company as MTV. So they had all the access and we just went in guerrilla style. So we rented the RV. And me, Ian from Real Rock TV, Otto, who was the AAF Rock Bus driver. We had an intern with us, our promotions coordinator. We all went and I was like, look, guys, I went to Woodstock 5 years ago and this is what sucked and this is what was great. And we were so prepared. And the other thing is that I think a lot of people went to Woodstock 99 that weren't used to the late 90s nu metal concert crowds. And I was 99 AAF and nu metal and all the craziness that was happening around bands like Korn and Rage Against the Machine and Metallica and Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock. We were doing that every day. We were going to those shows and dealing with the crowds, and it was like that every day. So we were so used to it that it didn't surprise me that the crowd was insane. It didn't surprise me everyone was pissed off. That was just a bigger crowd than what we were used to, but it was the same crowd that we were used to. And it wasn't until things got super, super crazy on Sunday night and things started burning and people really started rioting that we were like, okay, this might get squirrely. And we stayed for a while to document everything. And then we found some back roads and we hightailed it out of there in the RV. And we're able to make it back to Boston in time for the morning show Monday morning to be able to talk about it while it was all hitting the news about what had happened the night before. So I have to watch the docuseries, but Shannon says your bus driver was named Otto. Trust me. The AAF Rock Bus's driver was named Otto for years. And nobody thought it was real. Everybody thought it was a nickname, but his name was really Otto. Yes, exactly. What's up, Mary? Are you joining us from Hawaii? I'm so jealous. 99 feels like yesterday, but in reality, it was 23 years ago. Exactly. That's what I mean. And like Woodstock 94 seems like yesterday to me. That was the summer I graduated from college. And we just, some of my college friends, some of my high school friends, my sister, we drove out in like a 15-passenger van with supplies and backpacks and tents, and we were really prepared. And it was still kind of miserable, the porta potty situation, which was the biggest thing when AAF started talking about sending us out to Woodstock. I was like, we need to bring an RV. We need to have our own bathroom, and we need to have air conditioning, and we need to be able to sleep, or we're not going to be able to get the job done, which is, reporting back, recording for Real Rock TV. And thankfully they listened, because the porta potties at 94 were horrendous and the porta potties of 99 were pretty gnarly as well. So I had, let's see. Don't forget Let Wednesday love you, Eric. She went in the other room now because I ran out of cookies. She was laying in here on the couch for a while, just chilling out, but freshman in high school in 99, says Mark. Graduated in 99, says Bridget. Yeah, I mean, to look out and see 500,000 people on a decommissioned Air Force base with these giant stages and these huge hangars where they had the raves at night and the smaller stages. I mean, it was like a mile walk to go from one stage to the other. And so if you tried to go back and forth to see different bands, it was a lot harder to do that in 99 than it was in 94. Never mind the fact that there was literally no shade and it was ridiculously hot. The people in 94 chose to embrace the suck, to steal a phrase from the military, and everybody kind of helped each other out because of the mud. Like, everyone was cold, everyone was dirty, everybody was wet and miserable. In 99, people didn't embrace the suck together the way that they did in 94. Everybody kind of was like, I need to get what's mine kind of thing, and breaking into the refrigerated trucks and stealing all of the ice cream and the cold water. But then again, they were charging like fucking $10 for a bottle of cold water when people were passing out from dehydration. It was like, come on, guys. So yeah, just craziness. Eric says, when I was introduced to Boston radio, I only listened to WBZ AM. Oh my God, that's so funny. Everyone was so nice and helpful, Jane says in 94. Yeah, because we were all suffering together. And that's the thing about, I think, the world in general, is that when bad things happen, you're going to have people that want to band together to try and lift everyone up, right? To bring all the boats up in the harbor. And then there's the people, when bad things happen, that just care about themselves and are only going to look out for themselves, even at the expense of other people who are suffering right along with them. And, you can look at it both ways and say, well, if you're suffering, you got to care about yourself and your loved ones first. And then there's the other thing where it's like, it says a lot about you if you're willing to take advantage of people that are suffering right next to you. And I think I would rather be the person that helps people suffering alongside me, as long as I can help it. After a while, especially, when it comes to like world financial crisis, Armageddon, Walking Dead kind of shit, eventually you got to worry about yourself to a certain extent. But at Woodstock 99, stealing ice cream, it's just, I'm going to watch it, but I just have a feeling that I'm going to have the same feeling as I did from the documentary, where I'm going to be like, I feel bad because I had such a good time and so many people were living a fucking nightmare that I just didn't even see. Didn't even see it. PJ says, Carrie, what is your top 5 metal rock songs ever, in no specific order, just songs that rock that you can listen to a million times? Man. Opiate from Tool is the first one that pops into my head. Blackened from Metallica. Waffle from Sevendust. Blind from Korn. I love. There's a song off of Volume 8, The Threat Is Real by Anthrax, called Crush. That's got this digga 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 digga. It makes me want to charge through a fucking brick wall. I love that song so much. And literally I could listen to it 10 billion times and I probably would never get stuck of it. I don't know. There's too many. If you go back to like 80s stuff, there's probably a few songs off of Operation Mindcrime that I need to have in my life over and over again. Let's see. I don't know. There's a lot. I like music a lot. It's a problem. There's just too much of it. Top 3 favorite pizza toppings. Peppers and onions. Pineapple and bacon. And margarita pizza with fresh mozzarella and basil. That was easy. All right. We got to talk about a bunch of stuff because there's a lot going on. So first of all, let's do a cocktail recipe, shall we? Got a lot of feedback about drink garnishes, which I loved. So we're going to have to, hold on, where is it? All right. So Wednesday, all of a sudden, heard the show going in a new direction and came running back in here because she thinks it's time for the mail call. Wednesday. All right, I like this one. I don't think we did this one in the early days of the War Room. It's called the Knickerbocker Knocker. Can't even say it 5 times fast. The Knickerbocker Knocker is 2 ounces of white rum, a half an ounce of creme de framboise, how do you say that? And a half an ounce of orange curacao, a dash of lemon juice, pineapple wedge to garnish, it says. Shake the ingredients, strain into a cocktail glass, add the wedge of pineapple, and serve. So this has got white rum, obviously, the creme de framboise, what is that? Prosciutto and eggplant on pizza, fabulous. If you want pineapple on your pizza, you're a serial killer. First of all, pineapple on pizza is delicious with American crispy bacon bits, real bacon, not cheesy bacon bits, but like real bacon bits, not Canadian bacon. I'm talking real red, white, and blue bacon. It's freaking delicious and you can't change my mind. What is this creme de framboise? What is that? Did we look that up before? Yeah, Wednesday brought the tail for the cocktail. Yeah, exactly. She's just over there. Watch her tail. What are you doing? You just chilling? Okay, you can just chill. Pineapple wedge is good, I think. Maybe pineapple and an orange wedge on a toothpick with a maraschino cherry would be better. Scallop and bacon pizza is goat. I'm not a scallop person. Red Rum, that's the burger place in Davis, California called Red Rum Burgers. It's French for shit, Mark says. Let's see. I think it's raspberry, Christina said. Oh, that sounds even better. Yeah. So then you definitely got to put some like raspberry puree on the top or like some just loose berries. And you could put a raspberry with like a white chocolate chip in it inside. So you get a little, yeah. Then call me Ted Bundy, Shannon says, if you like pineapple on pizza. So that's called the Knickerbocker Knocker. And I definitely think with something like that, I think anything with white rum, it's got to be fruity. Oh, Jane says it's raspberry for sure. The creme de framboise. So yeah, and it's definitely got to have fresh fruit garnishes if it's got if it's got pineapple and raspberry and stuff. So that's called the Knickerbocker Knocker. So if you guys want to freeze the screen later for your reference. So that's your cocktail recipe. Wednesday, can I move on with the show? Is that okay? Can I move on with the show? Okay, good. Let me know. I want to recap last week's podcast episode. Last week, we talked to Adam Gontier and Mike Mushak from Saint Asonia. Obviously, they're famous for their other bands as well. Adam Gontier for years was in 3 Days Grace, and Mike Mushak is still in Stained. But this new project, Saint Asonia, I love hearing from them just about how happy the project makes both of them. Both of them have had serious success in their own right with 3 Days Grace and with Stained. And the more I talk to artists, the more I kind of realize that I used to wonder, like, after you've had like gold, platinum albums, you've made your money, like why still go on? And the more I talk to artists and the more artists that I see getting older that I've known for a long time, it's that they would be writing music and making this music whether they were releasing it and getting played on the radio and touring in front of people or not. This is just something that they do. And as they get older and they tour with different bands and they make friends with other musicians, that collaborating with new people, not only does it strengthen their musical ability, but it's their life's passion and something that they want to do. So, looking at a band like Saint Asonia, it doesn't surprise me that Adam and Mike get along so well, and now they're so passionate about this new project. What's happening over here right now? I just want to show you guys again real quick. This, for you guys that have been asking about how things have been going with Mom. So just to give you like a quick thing, because it lends itself to Wednesday. Mom's still in the hospital. She's been in the hospital since before last week's show, and we're not sure if or when she's going to be coming out. They're doing a lot of stuff with her medications right now, and so mom's been gone this whole week. She's been in the hospital, and so because Grammy isn't around with Wednesday, she has been incredibly clingy with me since Mom got put in the hospital. And Wednesday does a lot of laying around with me and just wants to be close. So, yeah. Jonathan wants to know if I've been practicing speaking backwards. So if you listen to last week's podcast episode, Mike Mushak, now I've always known he was really smart. He's an engineer. We've talked about being proficient at math. His mom is a math teacher, grew up having a teacher for a mom. But I had no idea until we recorded episode 113 that Mike Mushak could literally speak backwards. And and have full-on conversations, but answer in full sentences backwards. So if you haven't listened to the podcast episode, go back and listen to it, because he fully says like full sentences backwards and answers my questions backwards. And it's crazy, because I don't know anyone else. I had heard of people that could do it, but I never knew anyone that actually could. It's like something you read about on the internet or see somebody like making a YouTube video about. But now that I can say I have a friend that can speak in backward sentences, like, it's kind of insane. So go back and listen to the episode if you haven't listened to it yet, because I don't know how he does it. Let's see. She's so cute, says Tracy. Yeah, episode 81, I think, the Gummy Dicks Night. Wait, are you guys talking about the drink? Did we redo that drink? Is that what you guys are talking about? Having a rough time with serious panic attacks. Never had them this bad. Please send prayers and inappropriate jokes, says Trina. Well, the prayers I'm not really good at, but the inappropriate jokes, we excel at that around here. For sure. You okay, Wednesday? So she's been very snuggly with me lately, and so it's not surprising me that... What's surprising me about this situation is not that she's sitting here laying with me here in the war room. It's that she's laying exactly where I needed her to based on where the camera is. I don't. Sometimes she just wants to be part of the show. All right, so let's talk about this week's episode, because I really think you guys are going to love this week's podcast episode. Episode 114 of the Mistress Carrie podcast features hip-hop artist and movie actor Slain. And yes, that is him in MCHQ, because he insisted on coming to the studio to record the episode, which was amazing for me, because a lot of artists, they just find it easier for me to call them on the phone, hook them up on Zoom, whatever it is. But I met Slain a long time ago at AAF in the halls. And then, but it was a really quick thing. And then last week I met him like for real, because he was in Worcester at the Pike actually recording commercials. And so we got to talking, and I was like, hey, I have a podcast. Would you come on it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, when are you available? And he was like, like tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll, when I get back to MCHQ, I'll set up a thing and I'll send you a link for Zoom. And he was like, I'll just come to your studio. And I was like, really? So next thing you know, Slain pulls up to the house in his beautiful Lincoln, like all tinted out and shiny. And I don't think he wanted Wednesday jumping on his legs, because he was wearing shorts, and I think she scratched him a couple times. But we had coffee in MCHQ, and we had an unbelievable conversation. Now, you might not recognize him because he looks a little different. He's got a beard, obviously, because he's got the COVID beard going, but he's also lost some weight. But you'll remember him from Gone Baby Gone. You'll remember him from The Town. He's been in a bunch of movies, and he is also an addiction recovery specialist. He's somebody that works with addicts and helps them get sober, and it's work that he's been doing for a lot of years. He's in recovery himself. He's been sober for over 8 years, and he's now working at Charles River Recovery, which is a fairly new recovery facility in Boston. And we had an unbelievably candid conversation about his upbringing, about his battles with drugs and alcohol. We talked about him getting his first film role. His first movie role ever was Gone Baby Gone, which blows me away because he was so good. Mark says he was so good in The Town. He absolutely was. And he's a recovery coach. He's an advocate. He is someone that has been working behind the scenes, kind of, coaching people along the way that he was coached along to get sober. And he talks all about that. And I don't want to give too much away, but he talks a lot about the musician, the very famous musician that actually helped get him sober finally. And the story about him auditioning for Gone Baby Gone is crazy to me. He talks a lot about Ben Affleck as a director, talked a lot about just what it was like to make that movie, where he was personally in his life at that time. And looking at the performance he gave, you would never know what he was going through at the time personally. He's so candid. He's so funny. We come from such diverse backgrounds, in musical taste, in upbringing. He's a city kid that, really just kind of grew up with a totally different childhood than someone like me that grew up in the suburbs. But to hear his journey, what's the matter, Wednesday? Hey, come here, come over here. Just to hear the way that he talks about, everything that he's been through. And sometimes people have a hard time talking about their flaws. And he attributes it to the journey to get sober and the steps in his recovery program about being able to kind of come face to face with the decisions he's made in his life. And if you know someone that struggles with addiction, he's very candid about describing what that process is like from the addict's point of view. And to me, it was fascinating because while I have had friends that have struggled, I have lost friends to addiction. I myself have never struggled with that. And so hearing somebody describe why the addiction is so powerful and what is going on in their lives to make the addiction have the kind of control that it has, and to be able to articulate it so perfectly so that you really do, even if you've never struggled with addiction, understand from the addict's perspective. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. And if you yourself have struggled with addiction, especially because of COVID, we've talked about it a lot here that, hanging out cocktails in the war room style 80 nights in a row, those nights I probably drank more than I did since college. I mean, drinking every day to the point where we had to take Temple Tuesdays and make mocktails in the war room days because we were all realizing we were drinking too much. So if you have struggled with addiction and are still struggling, I think this is going to be a really inspirational episode for you to hear Slane talk about his journey and what worked for him and what didn't. And we're talking about Slane, the hip hop artist from Boston, who's also the actor that you recognize from Gone Baby Gone, The Town. He's been in so many movies over the years. And to really hear how those two things, his addiction and his career, have been interwoven, how the addiction fed into the creativity and how the creativity fed into the addiction. It's a really eye-opening conversation. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of lighthearted conversation too, but I didn't want him to stop talking. I want to have him back 10 times on the podcast. I think he is such a fascinating guy. And I think you guys are absolutely going to love this episode. We talked a little bit about rock music. We talked a little bit about hip hop music, but his introduction to hip hop in the neighborhood in Dorchester, he told me about it. It's very funny. I don't want to give it away. You'll hear it in the episode. Brian says, sounds like this interview is going to be very helpful. My ex-wife is an alcoholic and it destroyed our marriage. Brian, his addiction destroyed his marriage to his son's mother, who he is still very close with because it was a girl that he grew up in the neighborhood with and whose family was part of his life growing up. I guarantee you this episode is going to shine some light on being in a relationship with an addict and what that is like from the addict's perspective, because he talks about that in this episode, about losing his marriage And what was the final kind of last straw? What was the thing that finally motivated him to get sober? And just because that worked for him doesn't mean that it would work for everyone. And it didn't happen overnight. He struggled with it for years. This playlist is going to be great, says Mark. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. There's a lot of rock stuff in there. There's a lot of hip hop in there. There's a lot of early hip hop references in there. We obviously are talking about bridge artists that bridged hip hop to the masses, to the kids in the suburbs, the Run DMCs, the Anthraxes and Public Enemies, the Beastie Boys, obviously, the Eminems of the world that were able to deliver hip hop in a different way. And we actually got into a pretty in-depth conversation about your worldview and the music that speaks to you based on the world you're looking at. And I think you guys are going to love this episode. It's a long one. We talked for a while. Having him at MCHQ, I loved it. He actually said my studio was nicer than most radio stations, which I thought was pretty hilarious. And so I think you guys are really going to love this one, but it's a really powerful episode. Elsa said, my parents quit drinking alcohol for 30 years. It is possible, but it's not easy for a lot of people. And Cypress Hill, there's another example. House of Pain. These are artists that we talk extensively about in this episode. So, yeah, I think you guys are going to love it. Jen wants to know how Uncle Froggy is. So I talked to Uncle Froggy last week because I wanted to keep him up to date with everything that was going on with my mom. Uncle Froggy's doing okay. He's got some health issues that he's kind of tackling right now. And he's also still grappling with the loss of my dad because obviously he and my dad grew up together. And so between my mom's illness, Uncle Froggy's medical stuff, and the loss of my dad, Uncle Froggy's having a rough time right now. And because he's so far away, especially not being able to see mom. He kept in touch with mom for years while she was still healthy, but obviously now that mom is so far along in her illness that, it's beating him up a little bit. And I think, when I talk to people about mom's illness, I think when you're the one with the front row seat, you have to speed through the phases of grief, the stages a little bit faster than other people that aren't involved with it as much as you are, because you have to function. So when you're the caregiver, if you're just sad all the time because this is happening to someone you love, you're not going to be able to provide the care that they need. And so, I've spent so much time crying over the years once we found out about mom's illness. And now it's, I'm at this point where it's like, I have to accept it because I'm so involved in it day to day. Whereas other people that haven't seen her in a while, they're just trying to imagine the young, life of the party, effervescent woman that they're friends with. And they have a really hard time imagining how progressed her illness is. But Uncle Froggy is doing good. And I talk to him pretty often now, giving him updates on everything. So Mark says Slash has been sober for a few years now. Slash is a pacemaker. Slash's partying days wreaked havoc on his body. And I think when you get to the point where it starts to rob you of your health, that's one of the things that really motivates people to try and get a grip on their sobriety for sure. Let's see. Jen, I will definitely send him your love and hugs and kisses. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So episode 114 of the Mistress Carrie podcast goes live at midnight tonight, featuring Slain. And don't forget, not only do you get the full length episodes every Wednesday, but you also every weekday can listen to the sit rep as well. It's all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates. It's music industry info. It's movie headlines. It's concert updates, new releases. It's a little bit of everything, all kind of rolled up into a 5-minute bite-sized piece for you to get caught up with everything that's going on and then be able to get on with your day. So you get the sit rep every weekday. And if you are looking for the podcast because you want to subscribe and follow it, the podcast is pretty much everywhere. These are just a few of the biggest outlets for the podcast. Obviously, if you don't listen to podcasts regularly, just go to mistresscarrie.com. But if you listen to podcasts all the time, wherever you listen to your podcast, that's where you're going to find it. Apple, Google, Spotify, Pandora, Odyssey, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, Overcast, Downcast, Beyond Pod, Podcruncher, Podkicker, Podcast Addict, Mozilla, Amazon. It's pretty much everywhere. And like I said, if you don't listen to any of those, just go to mistresscarrie.com, pick the episode you want to listen to, click play. It's that easy. I'm starting to see some serious momentum when it comes to international growth. And I think this 130 countries in the next couple of weeks is going to change. I told you guys that once we change podcast hosts, that we were going to start seeing a lot of new metrics, and I'm starting to see a lot of the international audiences grow. The top 5 countries for the podcast remain the same as they did last week. Obviously, the United States is number 1. Canada is number 2. The UK is at number 3. Russia is number 4. And Singapore is still at number 5. So, the audience for the podcast is growing, which is amazing. And I want to thank everybody that's been listening. So very curious to see what having a hip hop artist like Slane is going to do for the international listenership of the podcast, especially people that might love his movies and his music. The Trinity of Terror tickets, they went on sale last Friday. The tour is Ice Kills, Motionless in White, Black Veil Brides with Atreyu. That's going to be at the Tsongas Center November 17th. The tour got announced last week. Tickets went on sale this past Friday. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss are at the Leader Bank Pavilion on September 9th and at Foxwoods on September 10th. Stevie Nicks announced her tour. The tickets are already on sale. Drink because they went on sale last Friday. Stevie Nicks, number 2 on my trifecta of women that I wanted to be like growing up behind Olivia Newton-John and Princess Leia. Stevie Nicks is going to be at the Xfinity Center on September 19th. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are getting ready to release their second new album this year. It's called Return of the Dream Canteen. It's coming out on October 14th. And when the Chili's are in town at Fenway, I'm sure we're going to hear some of that new music. So, Shinedown and Jelly Roll, along with John Harvey, are going to be at the Xfinity Center coming up September 13th. And if you listen to my show on 100 FM The Pike all week, every week this summer, we've been giving away tickets to a different show. And then every day in that week, we have a different text keyword to enter to win the tickets. Shinedown tickets are the tickets this week. In the Pike Concert Season Pass. So you can win some Shinedown tickets on the air. Am I going to have some? I'm not sure yet. The show is a little over a month away. So if I can get my hands on some tickets, I will let you guys know. Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush are getting ready to come to the Xfinity Center on October 8th. Those tickets are on sale now. In this moment, nothing more. The Cherry Bombs and Sleep Token are going to be at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on September 17th. And they're going to have a sneak peek for the media to go in and check out this brand new music venue in a couple of weeks. And I am fully going to that. So I'm definitely going to update you guys. And if you have a Mistress Carrie backstage pass, I'm going to take you guys backstage at the MGM Music Hall so you guys can check it out. Speaking of Stained, Aaron Lewis has his solo show at Indian Ranch coming up on September 3rd. Then obviously Stained has got their show that is going to be in Springfield on September 11th. That show is at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield. Joe Satriani's at the Orpheum November 5th. Be on the lookout in the next few weeks. I think the guys from Five Finger Death Punch are going to be joining me on the show. Not exactly sure if it's going to be Ivan or if it's going to be Zoltan, who I've known longer than Ivan, and if it's going to be a quick bonus episode, if it's going to be a full-length episode of the podcast, I'm not quite sure. But I've been going back and forth with them before they get ready to go out on the road with Megadeth to try and get those guys to chime in because the new album's getting ready to come out. So Five Finger Death Punch, Megadeth, The Who, and Fire from the Gods will be at the Xfinity Center on September 18th. Also, AWOL Nation is at the House of Blues October 23rd. And Slipknot, their new album is called The End So Far. It comes out September 30th. And they just released another new song from the album. It's called Yen. And there's the video out for it. It is fantastic. I'm really, really excited about this new Slipknot album. And they keep telling people the end so far does not mean the end of Slipknot. It's definitely ushering in a new era into the band, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So Slipknot, looking forward to the new album. Rod Stewart and Cheap Trick are going to be at Mohegan at the end of this week. Extreme and Indian Ranch, or Extreme's going to be at Indian Ranch on September 2nd. And at Hampton Beach on September 3rd. And then, of course, Extreme is going to be opening up at Fenway for Aerosmith on September 8th. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be at Fenway coming up on September 10th, which happens to be the Hub's birthday. So we'll see what happens with that. Can you believe that just in a couple of weeks, my second wedding anniversary is coming up? So weird. Judas Priest with Queensryche at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway. That show is on October 16th. Let's see, what else do we got going on? There's a lot of shows going on. The stadium tour, I heard nothing but great reviews. It just happened over the weekend. I heard it was great. It went off without a hitch. Who would have known? Tommy Lee's ribs, Vince Neil not being able to sing, Vince Neil's teleprompters, Bret Michaels getting rushed to the hospital. The only person that didn't have drama was like Joan Jett. Everybody else had something going on. But the stadium tour, they all say that they want this tour to go international, and so far it's been pretty successful. So seeing Stevie Nicks on September 19th, says Trina. These are the artists that if you've ever wanted to see them, it's like, don't wait too long to go and see them because you never know if you're going to run out of time. Collective Soul and Switchfoot were just at Indian Ranch over the weekend. Ghost, Mastodon, and Spirit Box are going to be at the Dunkin' Donuts Center coming up September 12th. The Tattoo the Earth Festival is coming up quick at the end of the month at the Palladium Outdoors. The aforementioned Anthrax, Black Label Society, Hatebreed, At the Gates, Municipal Waste. That's the same day, by the way, as the charity show that Godsmack is hosting at the MGM Music Hall. So there are so many shows going on right now that they're all falling like on the same days. It's insane. Lamb of God, Killswitch Engager at the MGM Music Hall September 21st, and the Godsmack show is coming up fast on August 27th. Evanescence and Korn are going to be at the Xfinity Center at the end of the month on August 26th, and Rise Against and The Used are going to be at the new club Roadrunner in Brighton this weekend. So if you're looking for something to do, that is happening this weekend. Want to fill you guys in on new releases for the week because there are a few. For some reason, I don't know why, but new music comes out on Fridays. The Beastie Boys are releasing the Check Your Head box set on Friday. Collective Soul is releasing their new album. I believe it's their 11th. It's called Vibrating. That's coming out this Friday. Danny Elfman is releasing the album Bigger, Messier, which is kind of a remix album of the solo album that came out last year. And there's a lot of remixes by Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails in here. Also, the Goo Goo Dolls are releasing Chaos in Bloom, and Hollywood Undead is releasing Hotel California with a K. That comes out on Friday. Hollywood Undead, part of the Rockzilla tour, with Papa Roach and Falling in Reverse and Bad Wolves, that's out right now. That the tour just started down in Providence, then was up in New Hampshire. So want to remind you guys, put in a plug. We're a month away from the Rock Fest at Indian Ranch. That's music from everybody from Pat Benatar to Aerosmith, to Foreigner, to Lynyrd Skynyrd, to Bad Company. So you can get your tickets. The Pike is presenting Rockfest on September 10th at Indian Ranch. Mail call this week. I want to send some love out to the Boston Local 718. You guys can see the shirt that they sent me. The Firefighters and Family Cancer Foundation. They sent me some new swag, which I got this week in the mail. And I had donated, they had a big fundraiser for the Kentucky Derby, and I was not able to make the fundraiser with everything going on with mom and the network and all of that stuff. But I was able to make some donations to help their fundraising. And so they wanted to send me some stuff. And check this out. Purple. So they sent me this badass hat and also this awesome t-shirt. So basically this foundation is for not only the firefighters, but their families, and helping those firefighters and their families when the family is struck with cancer, whether that be cancer for the firefighter or cancer for a family member of the firefighter. And so they're doing amazing work. And the foundation was started by a firefighter that's the younger brother of a firefighter that I know really well, who battled cancer himself. And so he started a foundation to be able to help other people. And so I want to thank them for the awesome swag. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. Want to remind you guys that summer is going to come to an end by the end of this month. The heat wave looks like it might have broken at some point, possibly. Maybe by the weekend, we're going to have like more normal temperatures. And so you're going to run out of time to get the tank tops. So if you want the tank tops, we're starting to get low on certain sizes. And obviously with winter coming, if you want to guarantee that you're going to get the size that you want, now is the time to get the tank tops while they're still in stock. And to remind you that you can get Mistress Carrie merchandise at Joe's Albums as well. They've got 3 locations, Main Street in Worcester, which is literally right around the corner from the Palladium and right around the corner from the DCU Center. And then there's a location in Northampton, and you can go to joesalbums.com. And that's a pretty fantastic website if you're a collector of vinyl. And a lot of people, get gifted vinyl, left vinyl, and they don't know what to do with it. And if it's something you don't want to keep, go and see Joe. He'll tell you if your vinyl's in good enough shape to resell, and he'll also be able to give you fair price and estimates for that stuff. All right. If you are celebrating your birthday today, happy birthday on August 9th. You share your birthday with Arian Salazar from Third Eye Blind, and you also share your birthday with the late, great Whitney Houston. Still arguably, I think, one of the greatest live performances in the national anthem ever. I think everybody pretty much just says, yeah, she knocked it out of the park. It's kind of hard to top that one. Want to remind you that if you don't have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, there are some things coming up that you are going to have, backstage access for. Not only the MGM Music Hall and the backstage access for that, but also I'm getting ready to go on a trip next week, and I'm taking you guys to Chicago with me. So if you don't have a backstage pass yet, not only do you get the travel blog updates, but you also get early info about the podcast guests, submitting questions, exclusive concert ticket giveaways. If you have a backstage pass, you have access to Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage tickets right now. You have access to Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush tickets. And you also have access to I Prevail tickets to go and see them at the MGM Music Hall. I froze. Am I unfrozen now? And then obviously, once again, we started the show talking about it, but a lot of people are still cheersing Olivia Newton-John. It's Lee Kakati's birthday from Pop Evil today too, Jane. How did I miss Lee's birthday? Fuck. Happy birthday, Lee. So let me see. Oh, I want to tell you guys something else too. When we talk about the merchandise, let me go back to the store. Got reminded. If you have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, I shared some pictures with you. There is a little bit of an expansion of the Mistress Carrie online store, and we've started to take over another room and set up a merch order fulfillment room. And I put up some early pictures. I got some like metal packing tables, and we're really starting to set up like an assembly line kind of order fulfillment center, because fulfilling orders gets a little cuckoo crazy. And obviously with the holidays coming up, we wanted to streamline the process a little bit. And so I have been asking Backstage Pass holders suggestions on what to name the room. I got some good ones. Somebody wanted to call it like the Blueberry Room or something like that. Someone wanted to call it Carrie's commissary, which I kind of really like, actually. So I'm looking for suggestions on what to call the room that is now going to be the merch room and order fulfillment room for the Mistress Carrie merch on the website. So if you guys come up with ideas, definitely let me know. And Keith, no, I didn't forget. Happy unbirthday, Keith. Cheers to you. Donna says we need to make her drink when she forgets. You don't need to make me drink. I just drink in here. It's what we do. Drink, Carrie, you forgot Keith. Happy birthday, or unbirthday, I should say, Keith. I like that idea, says Keith. It's all about you, Keith. It's all about you. So if you have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, there's a lot going on that you're privy to that everybody else isn't. If you don't have a Backstage Pass, you can get one on Patreon. And there are definitely some new ideas in the works for the fall and winter, not only expanding the podcast, but also expanding the Backstage Pass and what you're going to have access to as well. Are the hats coming? I'm working on it. Getting the actual hats has been an issue. And so I have been sourcing different actual hats, and I've got some cobbler place, says David. That's pretty funny. So it's finding the hats, but I'm working on them for sure. Wednesday, it's okay. Want to remind you guys all of the places you can find me. I keep getting alerts from TikTok. I put up snippets of the podcast on TikTok, and I get a lot of feedback about that they end up in people's algorithms because of the bands that are on and the artists that are on. So the TikTok is actually slowly starting to bring people towards the podcast, which is pretty cool. So Donna says, I like the commissary. Shannon says, I like Carrie's commissary too. Although, shouldn't it be the PX? Or should it be the commissary? I like the commissary too. I think it's kind of funny. And it fits in with the whole military theme. Keith says, Carrie, I have a veterans organization that I need you to look at. Keith, send me a DM straight through the website. Just click the contact the studio button on the website and send it. Wednesday is yelling at something. Yes, we don't know what she's yelling at, but she's definitely yelling at something. So basically that's it, guys. That's this week's show. We ran a little late today talking about everything that was going on, but that's what happens. So episode 114 is coming out at midnight tonight, featuring the one and only hip-hop artist, actor, recovery coach. I mean, he's kind of a jack of all trades and a Renaissance man, but Slane is my guest on the podcast this week, and it goes live at midnight tonight. Carrie's Dungeon, says Jonathan. Yeah, Betty says the commissary. Carrie's Closet, says Amanda. It's a pretty big closet. It's a giant room in the basement that is getting repurposed. There's been furniture moving the last few days. So when I get a little bit more of it all finished up and whatever, I'll try to get some pictures up. But if you got a Backstage Pass, I'm going to keep you guys kind of up to date on the progress. There's a lot going on down there. So, all right, guys, good night. I'll see you guys next week for episode 197. And don't forget the new podcast episode goes live at midnight. Good night. Wednesday.